Yeah, so I'm gonna this is Jeff again. I want to tell. I'm adding these subsections into this book series or whatever this thing is, tutorial series as I go along because I'm realizing pieces that I've forgotten to do, and so I want to add another subsection in here and there and all that. And I want to talk about the uh, kind of the what discovered for natural speech and discovering between scripted speech and natural speech. I did a fellowship. Um, I did a fellowship, which it's basically like a 6 month project. Usually these are in SAP. This is kind of do a usually it's to do a go learn something, whereas I went and go did a deep dive in something I already want to work on, right? And so I got to deep dive on a certain topic, and I turned it into a service afterwards, which I actually did another video on how I turned that into a service. But the what I went and did a fellowship was about was about conversational speech. I'm not going to give any confidential things out here. Um, I'm just going to kind of talk about the general um, findings of what came out of that and what we learned from that and what I helped us understand during that time of a bunch of technical writers that were doing video content. They were creating video content. I was doing the voiceovers for them, and then I went and did a fellowship, this 6 month project, to go help kind of relook at the whole thing. Because as a voiceover artist, I was finding out it was hard to actually pronounce some of these things. The scripts, they were hard, and the reason why they're hard. So I remember I did like they actually called me the voice in Paris office because I was doing all these how-to videos for all these different products in the Paris office. I mean, lots of different business intelligence and predictive analytics products, and actually other products too, and actually some other ones that were put out like SP Vehicle Insights and stuff. Um, but what I found was the scripts were kind of varied. They were written by different people, and we could see that some of them were during this 6 month period. Actually, before the 6 month period, I had done like a few dozen of these videos. And when I came into the whole goal was to say, how can we take these few dozen video scripts and improve them so that they sounded more natural rather than they sounded like they were being read? Okay, that's the key thing. And within the first month, I kind of broke it all down, did a thing. We did a workshop internally. And I got everybody to be kind of aware of this. And it was really, we went really, really well. It turned out to be really great. We had like a dozen people. And we were able to identify the things. And it was all about, I remember one time actually doing one of the recordings, I had one of the authors, I had her come up with me to the room where I do the recordings. And I wanted to understand some of the difficulties of doing. And one of the sentences, I actually did 25 attempts to do it. Okay. And she was taking notes because we wanted to know which of the recordings I was going to keep of each one, and she'd say 5. So she write down, the 5th one we're going to keep this one because she would see that I'd be struggling with the sentence. But the interesting thing is, she was seeing why I was having the difficulties of the sentences because she could see where I was struggling. Right? She could understand it while she was watching me doing it. And what I would get stuck on. And I'd get stuck on the same things every single time. And then she'd see I keep trying it, keep trying it, keep trying it, keep trying it. And finally, and so she understood what was causing the problems. And that helped her go back and rewrite these things or actually write them better the next time so that I wouldn't get stuck the next time, right? It's all about phonology. And this is read speech phonology. This is not natural phonology. So I'd show her is how could I say the sentences differently so that it sounded more natural so it wasn't difficult to pronounce? Because these constructed sentences are hard to pronounce because they're written as if they need to be read, written, text, right? Visual. But the thing is, I need to be able to read them for the voiceovers to be able to speak them, right? And that's different because you got to get your vocal cords going, right? You got to get your mouth, articulatory phonetics here. You got to pronounce it, okay? You got to pronounce it, and you got to get your voice closer. Whereas when you're reading, your eyes are just kind of doing their thing, and they're making your brain work, right? So it's a whole different process. So in the end, what we found is there was a huge difference, and I had taken dozens of scripts and showed it, and we did a workshop. I help people kind of break it down to the bare bones talking items, and have people do them naturally and say them naturally rather than write them out. And then how can you document writing them out? It was a really great workshop. I'm not going to give the detailed findings here because I don't want to give away a lot of details, but it was really good to see the difference, and for people, the authors, to actually understand that the more you write, the more you revise, the more you revise, the more you revise, the farther you're going to get it away from spoken speech, right? It's the whole goal, is to bring the spoken speech back in, or to actually just never leave from being the spoken speech. Keep it as spoken as you can. But the problem is, so many people have been trained to actually write, and correct the writing the wrong way to do scripts. It's the wrong way, okay? So what I had to have is that what you do when you're doing the scripts, you gotta have somebody speak it all the time. You gotta actually revise it by speaking it. Don't revise it by reading it. Revise it by speaking it. And then you're going to see what's hard to pronounce, right? Because when you give this to the voiceover person, it's already have been filtered out. This is too hard to say, or too long to say, or all these rebranding of all these product names and all this stuff. It's like saying the SAP something, 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 something 10 times in the script that takes 2 minutes. Way too much, right? Sounds stupid. It just doesn't sound natural. Where you can say our product, right? You can do contractions of this or abbreviated form, saying our product, this product. Okay, you don't have to say the SAP business object something 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 something, right? Which is like 10 different words, and it's really hard to pronounce. It makes your recording way too long. It gets boring, right? Because that's not how spoken speech is, right? We don't make things sound boring. You always abbreviate it, right? That's what we do. See, so you gotta wait when you don't let the legal people tell you how to say things. You just state at the very beginning the name, the brand name, and then you just call our product something. Abbreviate it. Don't say the 5 times 10s the whole product name. That's really super long. You don't have to. You just have to find a different way to say it. And so this is called context, right? Context. So the whole findings from that project was, um, that it allowed us to see where things were getting too formal. It was just beginning to sound too formal, and it was getting farther away from natural speech. So we had to bring it back to how can you make it sound more natural. And when you find it from natural, when you actually take the thing and make it more natural, then you can put it in a teleprompter, and it's easy to pronounce. Because the problem is, if you take written speech, written, that's meant to be read with your eyes, and you put that in a teleprompter, it's hard to pronounce it. And that's why the people make mistakes, and they're kind of fumbling, right? They're fumbling, because it wasn't meant to be spoken. But if you take these and you actually speak them out and discover what the difficulties of the pronunciation are, then you reach it, adjust that. So then you put that back in the teleprompter. A person can be walking down the hall actually pronouncing, and it's going to be easy to say because it's already been read, right? Out loud. It's been read speech out loud. So this is the fun thing about doing, trying to keep that whole thing around conversational speech. It really is about, it's about not getting too in depth into the text part and making it text. Keep it speech, and then it'll be more conversational. And then there are tons of studies about how SMS messages and text messages and messages, all these message platforms, how to use them, right? And how to not make it too complicated, right? But the problem is will always be moving in our language, on our text-based societies, where we have gotten so far away for the centuries into getting into text. We will continue to make things write text rather than actually just read written forms and short forms, right? So that's the video on this whole thing on um, conversational speech, and how you make things sound more natural. Spoken spillable syllables need to be shorter, need to be easy to pronounce, not too many consonant clusters. Consonant clusters is a hard thing to pronounce, rather than if you're just saying other shorter forms that are, you want to have vowel consonant, vowel consonant, vowel consonant, vowel consonant, vowel consonant. You want to have this. It's easy to do, but if you got to leave this group consonant clusters in words, it's really hard to pronounce these things. And you don't understand. You don't really realize it until you actually have to pronounce it, and by then it's too late because their script's been approved. Right? Too late. And they go back and reapprove the script. No, we can't reapprove the script. But you got to reapprove the script because it's hard to pronounce, right? And it's taking the person who's doing it 25 times a sentence to actually do it. And the problem, and they're charging you by the hour, right? So it gets increased cost. So this is the whole thing when you're doing these scripts is to think about this. And again, this is all measurable. And and a lot of these are the differences between written and spoken speech. And so I just want you to think about that. And these things you got to measure. It's called linguistic economy, okay? Internal costs, linguistic economy. And you want to make it so that it reflects, that the spoken speech reflects normal spoken speech. And that doesn't include all these extra things that are hard to understand. And actually, if you could do this, what we'll find is that when you're doing spoken natural conversational speech, in the end, it's actually easier to read because it's just flowing, right? It has not been polluted with, we got to make this sound like it's formal written stuff, right? Hey, this is basic stuff in people that work in field linguistics. We just think about this stuff because it's just normal, right? People work in discourse analysis, they think that too. But people aren't doing that. It's really, you don't think about it. You're just thinking about written, written, written. But the problem is written speech is not natural speech. So that's another thing keeping us going to how do we measure quality of language industry content. So we continue to make some more videos here. This is fun. This is really great because we go into to move to some direction of how we can measure these things, right?